Claude Frollo is quite a character. He's a guy who takes his religious beliefs to the extreme, so much so that he thinks everything he does is right, because in his mind, he's just following God's orders. But the thing is, he's actually a very cruel and dishonest man who misuses his power and authority as a government official to serve his own twisted interests. He even goes as far as hiring common thugs disguising them as soldiers, to enforce his own interpretation of what he believes is God's will, leaving everyone living in fear and hating him for it. While it seems like many people in Paris have a problem with Romani people, Frollo is the one who actively and openly encourages their mistreatment. He is hell-bent on getting rid of all the Romani people who live in Paris, as he considers their way of life to be something like an infectious disease that can spread to others around them. Frollo has shown a bit of a dark side too, getting some kind of sick satisfaction from watching his former captain of the guard being tortured, and even grinning when he sentences Esmeralda to be burned at the stake. Surprisingly, there's a side to him that can be quite understanding and forgiving, which isn't what one might expect from a guy like him. One instance that really shows this is when Quasimodo tried to deceive him just to go to the Festival of Fools, and he didn't hold it against him. In fact, when he was teaching Quasimodo the alphabet, he used the word forgiveness to explain what the letter F stood for. Even the gargoyles seemed to know that Frollo had a merciful side to him, as they figured he would more likely forgive Quasimodo for disobeying him than actually let him go to the festival. And they were spot on, as he did indeed forgive him for going against his orders. Another example of Frollo's forgiving nature is when Quasimodo helped Esmeralda escape from Notre Dame. He found it in him to forgive the hunchback, as he believed that Quasimodo was under the spell of Esmeralda. So, instead of punishing Quasimodo for his actions, Frollo let it slide, showing that he had a bit more understanding and compassion than one might have thought. In a rather unexpected twist, he is quite different from most Disney villains. Unlike the others who are well aware of their wrongdoings and either don't care or take pride in them, he truly believes that he's a good person and that whatever he does is for the greater good. This makes him a very complex character with depth. He simply refuses to see any fault in himself and is pretty self-righteous, declaring himself to be above the common immoral, weak and vulgar people, and even believes he's exempt from the biblical idea that everyone is sinful. This shows just how narcissistic he can be. He is convinced that all his actions are in the name of God, going to extremes like attacking Notre Dame Cathedral just to capture, arrest, and execute a single Romani woman. However, there are moments when it seems like Frollo feels some guilt. In the song Hellfire, he begs God for mercy on Esmeralda for what he plans to do to her and asks for forgiveness for his own actions. Also, when he spares Quasimodo's life, it's partly as a way to make up for killing his mother, showing that he does experience guilt, even if it's not in the usual way. Similarly, the mea culpa chorus in Hellfire hints that he may deep down realize that he's at fault and might even have some self-hatred going on. It appears that he used to lead a celibate life, but things take an interesting turn when he finds himself developing an intense attraction towards the beautiful Esmeralda. Instead of accepting that he's human and capable of experiencing lust like everyone else, he chooses to blame his feelings on sorcery and the devil. His uncontrollable desire spirals him into madness, which eventually leads to his downfall when he pushes Quasimodo too far by nearly killing Esmeralda. To some extent, Frollo is right to believe that his lust for Esmeralda is turning him towards sin because it's this very desire that causes him to act in an irrational and unfair manner. Driven by his lust, he ends up arresting two families and even tries to kill one of them, all because they refuse to hand Esmeralda over to him. This clearly shows how his infatuation with Esmeralda not only clouds his judgment but also leads him to commit terrible acts that have dire consequences. His treatment of Quasimodo is not just strict and controlling, he's also quite cruel and manipulative towards the young hunchback. He doesn't let him experience any form of freedom, makes him call him master, and lets him be humiliated in public without helping him, all to punish him for not following his orders. There are also signs that Quasimodo might have been physically abused by Frollo in the past, judging by the way he tries to stay away from him during his angry outbursts. Despite all that, there are some traces of humanity in the way he interacts with Quasimodo. He spends time with him during lunch and dinner, teaches him, and even gives him a job as the bell ringer at Notre Dame. He also provides for him and supports his hobbies. However, much like Mother Gothel's behavior towards Rapunzel, Frollo's acts of kindness are likely just part of his manipulative tactics to keep Quasimodo submissive and under his control. Additionally, he seems to discourage imagination, as he firmly believes that inanimate objects like stones can't talk, and he tries to make Quasimodo believe the same thing. Generally, Frollo gives off the impression of being a stoic person, always appearing calm, cool, and collected in most situations. However, there are a few instances when his cool and composed facade cracks, showing that he's not completely immune to feelings of fear and vulnerability. One of these moments is when Quasimodo manages to overpower him during a violent encounter where he was about to kill him. Another time is when he is faced with his imminent death as he's on the verge of falling. Additionally, he shows visible signs of fear when he faces the glaring eyes of Notre Dame, which condemn him for the heinous act of murdering an innocent woman on the cathedral steps. Frollo's personality is also characterized by a distinct lack of humor. On the rare occasions when he does display any sense of humor, it tends to be dark, cynical, and far from lighthearted. Even though he is extremely focused on his goals, his biggest flaw is his inability to truly feel or understand love for others, no matter how hard he tries. This cruel and abusive behavior ultimately led Quasimodo to lose loyalty towards his master and instead protect the first two people who showed him genuine kindness, Esmeralda and Phoebus. While he genuinely tried to be an attentive and caring father figure to Quasimodo while raising him, his heart was filled with too much hate and arrogance to be the loving parent Quasimodo needed. Furthermore, he seems to have a general dislike for people and lacks a sense of personal connection with others. Interestingly, Quasimodo is the only person he ever addresses by name. In contrast, he refers to his soldiers as "you men" when he's preparing to attack the cathedral, and he usually refers to Esmeralda as the gypsy girl or just the girl. This shows how impersonal and cold Frollo can be in his interactions with others.
Now, listen to me, Quasimodo.
No, you listen! All my life you have told me that the world is a dark, cruel place, but now I see that the only thing dark and cruel about it is people like you.